Okay, welcome back to the channel everyone, and I've got unfortunate news. It looks like the Completely Motorcycles group has gone into financial difficulties. The Completely Motorcycles group comprises 21 dealerships spread about across the UK, and they include most of the main brands, not Harley Davidson, not Royal Enfield. I think are the only ones that aren't sold through Completely. Last week I was riding the BSA and I put up a bit of a vlog segment, not a whole video, just a little segment where I talked about what I knew about Completely at that time, and so I think the best thing to do is just cut into that. The problem is I didn't unfortunately post that video prior to this weekend just gone essentially, and it looks like there's been some big developments over the weekend. But let's cut into the video and then I'll meet you back here.
Oh, while we're here guys, I do want to do a little bit of a consumer advice sort of thing. There's a couple of things I've heard that I think people should be a little bit wary of, and I've been hearing this a lot for a long time about the Completely Motorcycles group. As you know, if you're anywhere interested or got any interest in, you know, the kind of motorcycle industry and that, you'll have seen Completely Motorcycles over the last, what, 4 or 5 years, just constantly buying up other dealerships, and it's almost like spread out, taking over rivals. And obviously you can't, that's not organic growth for a business. You can't just keep on buying other dealerships and then amalgamating them and hopefully reducing costs through centralized distribution and administration and all that. Those businesses that they've acquired also have overheads like staff and rent and energy and all that sort of thing. So people have been saying, I mean, I heard this in Malvern, a dealership there about 18 months ago now, that they couldn't understand the Completely business model. To keep on buying bikes and holding a huge amount of stock. I don't know if you're aware, but you don't often get stock from a motorcycle manufacturer for free. You have to either buy the stock or they'll lend it to you with interest. And so if you're holding a lot of stock and you can't shift it, it's depreciating, isn't it? Because new models are coming out if you own it, and if you've essentially borrowed money to buy it, then you're paying back on. Oh, hello! Spilled a lot of material on the road there. Then you're on the hook for interest payments on those bikes if you don't shift them. And so it's a situation where if you're a dealer, you don't want to be holding onto a lot of stock going into winter, or a lot of stock that's Euro 5 with 5.5 coming out, and you know, the word is that they're holding on to a lot of stock of bikes which they can't shift, which has restricted their cash flow. And yeah, I would just be very careful if you're buying from Completely and you're thinking of like the aftercare for sales, whether they're going to look after you on that. Now, people have been saying this about Completely for years, but apparently it's become more acute recently, and the sort of hidden investor behind it wants his money back by the end of the year. And so, whilst it's not really for me to sort of like comment on things that I don't know the full facts of, I haven't looked at the balance sheets, for example, I just think it's worth saying, if you're in the UK and you're thinking of buying a bike, just take that into account. It could end up costing you.
Okay, so my suspicions about it Completely, and a lot of other people's suspicions, look to be coming true, basically. Now, the dealerships in Worcester did not have any motorcycles outside of the front of them at the tail end of last week. So Ducati, which normally has a line of bikes, they didn't put the bikes out. Over the weekend, we've heard that people have paid money in terms of bank transfer. Credit cards haven't been permitted, so the protection of a credit card in most cases isn't there. People have paid money and received no bikes. People have been told they were due a delivery on set day, and then what's happened is they've been called again and told they're doing a stock audit, end of year audit is called, which basically is held up delivery. Now, an end of year audit would never happen in October anyway, so it's an extraordinary audit, and it's an audit by a legal firm, which is basically like liquidating the company. Obviously, I just feel terrible for everyone who's been affected by this. There's stories on Facebook. One bloke paid 12.5 grand for a GS. He might not see the bike or the money ever again. People have got their bikes in the dealerships for service and repair work and warranty work. Whether those bikes are released or not is anyone's guess. I did hear also some people talking about some shady practices that were going on almost over the last month. Like, deposits had gone up from £100 refundable deposits to £500 non-refundable deposits, just trying to get people to basically invest more in the bike up front so they couldn't back out of the sale. Apparently test rides were also required to have a £500 down payment, which is really strange in the industry. Normally you can test ride a bike with none of this rules and restrictions on it. And finally, salespeople were offering £500 off any bike if they bought it there and then, which again is not something motorcycle dealers do as par for the course. So what's basically happened, as I touched on in the previous segment, is that this guy has gone on a very strange business practice with hidden funding behind him from another individual, and they've kind of just gone around acquiring all of other dealerships, but they've taken on not only the potential operating profits of those businesses but also the existing assets and liabilities. If it turns out to be true, and usually it's one of these cases where there's no smoke without fire, they wouldn't close dealerships midweek or even on the Saturday for no reason, then a lot of people are actually going to lose their jobs over it, which is so bad. No doubt the directors will just disappear off into nowhere and reset up a new company under a new name, but there's a lot of good people who work for Completely and they're not being told anything at this time. So my advice, if you are affected by it, if your bike's in for service, I would try and get down there and try and recover the bike if at all possible. Maybe you've got a relationship with someone in the service centre that you've known for a good few years. If you can get your bike out of there in this sort of crucial 48-hour window, then perhaps you get your bike back. I don't know how it works. I mean, somebody tell me who's got more of a legal basis. If it's your bike that's in for a service, surely legally it's your bike, so it can't be you can't be restricted from having it back. If it's unfortunately a bike that you paid a deposit for, or it's a bike that you've paid in balance but hasn't been delivered, that's going to be really difficult, because they're just going to cancel all the deliveries, and if the company goes into administration, it's not going to fulfill its existing orders. It's just going to count up the cash that it's got, i.e. your cash, and no bike's going to be sent out because they're not going to have the delivery infrastructure or anything. Again, if I was you, I'd just get down there, because I think this 48-hour window is crucial. I don't know the legal basis for it, but if it was my bike and my money, I would get down to your showroom now and sort of get it. At least you'll know if you have to go through a longer process trying to get money back in the future, at least you'll know that you tried. It's raining at the moment, but just get down there and get out on the bikes. And if it does so happen that this is true, I mean, it just teaches everybody, teaches all of us a lesson. Never to take anything at face value, and kind of buy from people you trust and small independent dealers who you know and have known for years, like Midwest Moto and like the chap at Midlife Classics who really acquitted himself well when I went up to see him recently. These like small personal family dealers, I would just buy off them. I just think that your money's safer in these situations with people you know and trust. So I just wish everybody well in getting their money back, and yeah, it's just a terrible thing to happen for those who are affected by it. Alright guys, well, I hope you're all well, and I hope that none of you watching are affected by the completely, what looks like a complete disaster at Completely Motorcycles or Motorbikes.